Our scripture for this evening is 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 7. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7. Allow me to begin with a story. It was written by Mark Chernoff. It's a short story, but it very well complements the principle as found in 1 Peter 5, verse 7. Once upon a time, a psychology professor walked around on a stage while teaching stress management principles to an auditorium filled with students. As she raised a glass of water, everyone expected they'd be asked the typical question, is the glass half empty or half full? Instead, with a smile on her face, the professor asked, how heavy is this glass of water I'm holding? Students shouted out answers ranging from 8 ounces to a couple of pounds. She replied, from my perspective, the absolute weight of this glass does not matter. It all depends on how long I hold it. If I hold it for a minute or two, it's fairly light. If I hold it for an hour straight, its weight might make my arm ache a little. If I hold it for a day straight, my arm will likely cramp up and feel completely numb and paralyzed, forcing me to drop the glass to the floor. In each case, the weight of the glass doesn't change, but the longer I hold it, the heavier it feels to me. As the class shook their heads in agreement, she continued, your stresses and worries in life are very much like this glass of water. Think about them for a while and nothing happens. Think about them a bit longer and you begin to ache a little. Think about them all day long and you will feel completely numb and paralyzed, incapable of doing nothing else until you drop them. What a powerful story that cautions us against holding on to our weights, our burdens, our cares. That is why we read in 1 Peter 5, verse 7, casting all your care upon him, for he cares for you. The word cast means to throw. Do you know that it takes a certain amount of strength and energy to actually throw something? As mentioned in this story, the longer you hold something, the weaker your arms become. Have you ever thought that maybe you don't throw something or cast something or give something to God is because you've been holding it so long that you're too weak to even cast it to Him? Some people will say, well, brother preacher, casting our cares to God, that sounds easier said than done. Take note of 4 simple things that will help you to cast your cares and to discover the power and privilege of the God that we serve and Him affording us to be benefactors of that power and privilege. 4 things to remember. Number 1, you have to surrender control. One of the greatest problems in our lives is that we really think we are in control. And we stress ourselves over matters that are absolutely out of our control. Learn to surrender control. Number 2, surrender your thoughts. The problem that we have is that we maintain anxiety and frustration because we keep thinking about and worrying about things that we need to surrender our thoughts to God. Number 3, surrender to worship. Time will not permit, but when you read the Bible, one of the things that you discover is that whenever people were oppressed, whenever people found themselves in otherwise anxious moments of life, when they began to worship God, that got God's attention unlike anything else. The devil wants to discourage you, but always make sure that you make worshiping God a priority in your life. And worship is not limited to just a Sunday experience. You can praise and give adoration to God any moment that you're living. Number 4, submit to working. Usually what causes us to hold on to our burdens is because we stop doing what we are normally involved in doing, and we become laser focused on the problem to the extent that we become detrimental to our own effectiveness. You have to have what I call a healthy distraction, and that is allow yourself to focus on other things, allow yourself to do other things so that you don't have the idleness that allows you to reinforce your anxiety and your frustration. So again, you cast your care to God, surrender control, surrender your thoughts, submit to worship, and submit to working. And you'll find yourself less stressful, less anxious, and more inclined to experience the joy of God. This has been another installment of A Few Minutes with the Minister.